Alright, so this next video is going to be on why I think mood disorders are indicative of introverted feeling cropping up depending on when the person is diagnosed this mood disorder. And what I mean by that is, you can get some sort of mood disorder diagnosis in your first quarter, second quarter, third or fourth quarter of life, and depending on when that mood disorder or mood adjacent disorder is diagnosed, you can say, well, that's where that stack is, that person's introverted feeling or authenticity in the personality hacker system, where that function is in that person's stack. Stack's good enough. Because I know people who've been diagnosed with bipolar disorder like in their 40s or later, so it's arguably not always a first or second quarter thing. For me, it was a second quarter thing. So yeah, the diagnosis that I was given initially was bipolar disorder, but then it kind of turned into what's called an episodic mood disorder. Both of these are mood disorders, so essentially the interpretation doesn't really change. So for me, the onset was like late teens, early 20s, really just around the transition between first to second quarter of life. So I think, and I'd already been diagnosed with and acclimating and adjusting and getting a handle on my sensory processing disorder. So by the time that mood disorder diagnosis cropped up, or that FI cropped up, I was already kind of pretty solid on the sensory processing stuff. But yeah, why do I think a mood disorder is indicative of introverted feeling? Because a mood disorder, what is a mood disorder? It's essentially somebody struggling with or having difficulties with managing their mood, their internal affective state, their emotional disposition, not disposition, but just their emotional attitude internally. It wasn't a social thing. It wasn't like social anxiety or anything like that. It was just my mood was unstable, essentially, for a period of time. And I think that's essentially indicative, not necessarily equivalent to, but it's indicative of FI coming online. Like, because what is FI? It's your own emotional state, your own values, arguably once you kind of integrate those emotions. But at the onset, it's really just, and it's like immature FI, because it really only started becoming very obvious at that point in time, so it was still immature. It's not going to be as mature as my SE or my extroverted sensation, because I've been working on that for 20 years already. So that's why it was kind of unstable initially. It's essentially just the case that when you're dealing with introverted feeling, it feels like your emotions are just all over the place in an immature state. So I was dealing with it in an immature state, and that's why it manifested the way it did. Yeah, I think that's a pretty clean-cut example of like extroverted sensation, first quarter, introverted feelings, second quarter. Introverted feeling, also known as authenticity. Yeah, this is the tie into typology, really, is just that it's about understanding your motives, why you do what you do, why you want what you want, stuff like that. And the same time that this mood disorder started emerging was when I started getting into typology more. And that's because I think authenticity is a good word for describing introverted feeling, because it's like, who am I, why do I do what I do type questions. Motivational type questions. What are my motivations? So for me, I started answering those questions using typology. Other people maybe turn to art or music or whatever, or different stuff to try and do it. For me, it was just figuring out personality typology for myself and other people, and seeing how I compare to them and how I compare to myself across time. But yeah, so that's why I think introverted feeling is the mechanism behind mood disorders, because it's essentially just unregulated, upregulated, downregulated, unstable mood at the beginning in an immature state. The task for the introverted feeler is to integrate that into a system of values that they can maybe superimpose on top of their emotions and get a handle on them that way. So that's all I got for ESFP for myself, because I'm 27, so I can predict like an extroverted thinking third quarter, an introverted intuition fourth quarter, but we're going to have to wait and see, because I'm not that old yet. So thanks for watching.